today I want to try something a little bit different. This is going to be a very simple lesson in a way. I'm going to explore the different things we can do with a G chord, not traveling up the neck very far. So, you know, obviously we got a regular G chord here. You can make it, you know, that one, right? Now in this case, I'm using my third finger on the high E and my second finger on the third fret of the E string, first finger on the second fret of the A string. So that's your, you know, basic G. Now, even with that, we can already change it up, and the reason I'm about to show you why, if we just replace that third finger with the pinky, and then put the third finger on the third fret of the low E, and the second finger on the second fret of the A, it looks like that. Same chord, right? Sounds the same, is the same, really, sounding, as far as the notes. But by simply going from here to here, now you've freed up your first finger to do lots of different things. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. So for instance, what could I do with that? Well, I could hammer on that B note of the A string. So I could use that as a kind of a strum hammer-on. All I'm doing is just hammering on that second fret, my second finger of the A string, and then picking that D string. So, now of course you can go further by going down to the D and the G string. Same move, right? So there's that. And I mean, there's a million ways to go here, but if I can take my first finger and put it on the first fret of the B string, that's a nice sound too. Now there's some examples of ever so simple moves you can make just simply by utilizing your pinky on that third fret of the high E instead of having your third finger there. You got your pinky there, and now you've freed up all kinds of things all moves you can make with your first finger. So now you can still use your second finger to do that too. You have that first finger, especially on the B string first fret, little G sus thing. Heard that, Bob Dillon, right? Okay, so that's one look at a G chord. Now let's go to a second look at it, and this one is ever so simple as well. All I'm doing is taking my third finger and putting it on the third fret of the B string, and tucking that pinky under it on the third fret of the high G. We call this, me and Jason call this the big G Cowboy Chord, but for obvious reasons. Sounds pretty chimey, right? Magic G chord. So all we've really done is taken that G chord we had with the pinky, and now I've transferred back my second finger to the third fret of the low E and first finger to the second fret of the A, and then I'm doing this. Now you could also do it by just barring your third finger on these two notes. And what does that do for you? Well, that opens up some moves too that you can make. One that I think of is sort of a petty move, you know, you go from a G to a C, you know, sort of a free falling sound. All I'm really doing is taking these two fingers and moving them down one string, but I don't want to get into other chords now. I just want to stay on the G chord. So that's that cowboy chord. Okay, fair enough. That's a cool sound. So we've gone from this to this. Same sound, but different configuration with the fingers, so that I'm able to get that sus in there. And then we went to the big cowboy G, okay? And that's just a great sound. That does sound different than this. A little more chimey. The Beatles use that one a lot too. Everybody does. Okay, now I'm going to go to the third way I'm going to show you to make a G chord. I'm going to do two different versions of this one. Now this one is really a second position because it's a bar chord, like you know the G power chord. You know that one, so it sounds like this. Bar chord. Some people have trouble with that one, but it's okay. It's a great sounding chord on its own. Now what I'm about to show you though is quite a bit more difficult to pull off. And the only way to really do it correctly is to do it incorrectly, which is, what do I mean by that? I'm hunching my thumb up over on this G. Now, if you're uncomfortable with that, I get it. It's not the easiest thing to do. I've been doing it for so long, it's second nature now. But what I'm about to show you is a different G chord. You got your thumb reaching out on the 3rd fret of the low E, okay? Then you got your 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the A string. Tuck your pinky to the 4th fret of the 5th fret, I'm sorry. 5th fret of the A string, 5th fret of the D string. So now you got thumb on the 3, 3rd finger on the 5, pinky on the 5. Let your open G ring out. So it sounds like this so far. Now that gets a certain sound because you got 2 G's in a row. Now what I'm doing is bar the 3rd fret on the B and the 3rd fret on the G, on the high E, and that's going to complete the chord. Now this is a handful, not that easy to finger, but it's cool, and I'm going to show you one very interesting example where it can work. If you take that chord, once you get comfortable with it, just move it back 2 frets. You got an F with a G in it. Well, how does that work? Well, the first time I ever heard this was I listened to an album called Super Session with Al Cooper, Steve Stills, and Mike Bloomfield. And I think they used this chord on a Dillon song, Takes a Lot to Laugh, Takes a Train to Cry. And here's what you can do with that. And it's not the easiest thing in the world, but once you get this down, and you move it back to the F position, back and forth, it sounds like this. What I like about that? Well, I like it because it has that G ringing, and yet I'm changing chords, and the G is a common tone that stays in it. Creates a real nice sound. The last thing I'm going to show you is when you're doing this, you can do a partial version of this chord. Let's not worry about our low E and our low A at all at this point. And let's just take our 3rd finger and hit that 5th fret of the D, let the G ring out, and again bar the 3rd of the B in the high E. Okay, it looks like this. Same chord, but only the highest 4 strings. Now, what I like about that, and I use this a lot of times, sort of a friend of the devil kind of thing, where I'll walk it down. Almost gets like a country banjo. What am I doing there? I'm just going from the 4th fret on the D string to the 5th fret on the D string with my 2nd and 3rd finger, and it sounds like this. Almost a banjo sound. You can tickle those high strings while you're doing it. So I've got a little bit of hillbilly on it, a little bit of country. I use that one a lot, and sometimes I use that particular move in a different context. It's not necessarily country. I'll do that. What do I do that? I have a little Beatle band called Lonely Hearts, and I'll do it on Hard Day's Night, which, by the way, the Beatles didn't do it on the original version, but I don't care, because part of the magic of this little band is we try to reimagine Beatles songs in a slightly different fashion. So I'll be doing something like, the chords are like, very Liverpool. So what I'll do is I got my buddy Austin playing the true rhythm from the record, and I'll kind of let this go. Been a hard day's night, and then I'll go back to a working like a dog. So it gives it a slightly different flavor, one that I like. And so that's 3 different ways to do a G chord, actually 4 total. And if you have that under your command, if you have that in your fingers and your vocabulary, it's nice to be able to go, not always do it the same way. There's the funky one, and then the big cowboy. And now we do the bar with the, not really a bar, it's just a sort of a difficult thumb over version, and then the partial, which allows you that. And all those work great for different applications, really. It depends on the song and what you're trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed that as a little G primer, doing some basics and some slightly unorthodox versions of the G. I'll see you down the road.